Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura. And this morning we're doing text 5 and 6. Without further ado, let me just backtrack a little bit. We're happy to have His Grace, dear Krishna Prabhu from ISKCON, Harrisburg, and also Berks back to yoga to give the class. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please unmute. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, we can start. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhav, and I seek the blessings and permission of His Grace Parikshit Prabhu so that we can continue the class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, जमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परवकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परवकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय।
जय
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।
जय
नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय।
जय
कौन फाउंडर आचार्य श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।
जय
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय।
जय
श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय।
जय
नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय।
जय
गंगा माई की जय।
जय
यमुना माई की जय।
जय
तुलसी देवी की जय।
जय
भक्ति देवी की जय।
जय
संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय।
जय
सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय।
जय
गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि
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 बोल।
बोलो। All glories to the assembled devotees. All
हरे
glories to the
कृष्ण
assembled devotees.
हरे
All
कृष्ण
glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे
All
कृष्ण
glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते कृतदासधिकारीति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So today we will be discussing on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 5 and 6. And the title of the chapter is Questions by Vidura. So verse number 5. Sutta uvacha sa evam rishi varyo ayam पृष्ठो राज्ञा परीक्षिता प्रत्याहातं सुभवित प्रीतात्मा श्रूयतामिति. Word to word meanings. Sutah Uvach, Sri Suta Goswami said, Sah, he, Evam, thus, Rishi Varya, the great Rishi, Ayam, Shukdeva Goswami, Prashta, being questioned, Ragya, by the king, Parikshita, Maharaj Parikshit, Pratyaha, he replied, Tam, unto the king, Subahu, with, highly experienced, Preet Atma, fully satisfied, Shryatam, please hear me, Iti, thus. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Suta Goswami said, the great sage Shukdeva Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively. No purports, we'll move to the next one, verse number 6. श्रीशुक उवाच यदा तु राजा ससुतान् अशद्धुन् यदा तु राजा ससुतान् साधुन् पुष्णन्न धर्मेण विनष्टदृष्टिः भ्रातुर्यविष्टस्य सुतान् बिबन्धुन् प्रवेश्य लाक्षा भवने ददाह। श्रीशुक उवाच यदा तु राजा ससुतान् साधुन् पुष्णन्न धर्मेण विनष्टदृष्टिः भ्रातृरविष्टस्य सुतान् बिबन्धुन् प्रवेश्य लाक्षा भवने ददाह। श्रीशुक उवाच यदा तु राजा ससुतान् साधुन् पुष्णन्न धर्मेण विनष्टदृष्टिः भ्रातुरविष्टस्य सुतान् बिबन्धुन् प्रवेश्य लाक्षा भवने ददाह। Devotees can recite, please.
Shishika uvacha yada tu raja swasutan asadu ustamna dharmena vinashta drishti patu yavitasya sutan vibandun praveshya laksha bhavane dadaha. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
श्रीसुत उवाच यदा तु राजा स्वसुतान् असाधून् पुष्णान्न धर्मेण विनास्तादृष्टे भर्तुर्यविस्थस्य सुतान् बिबन्धु प्रवेश्य लोक्षा भवने ददाह। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else?
यथा तु राजा स्वसुतान् साधून् पुष्णान्न धर्मेण विनष्टदृष्टिः भ्रातुर्यविष्टस्य सुतान् बिबन्धून् प्रवेश्य लाक्षा भवेन ददाह। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Okay. So, word to word meanings. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Shri Shukdeva Goswami said, Yada, when, tu, but, Raja, King Dhritarashtra, Swasutan, his own sons, Asadhun, dishonest, Pushnan, nourishing, Na, never, Dharmena, on the right path, Vinasht Drishtihi, one who has lost his insight. Okay, Vinasht Drishtihi, one who has lost his insight. Bhartuhu, of his brother. Yavishtasya, younger. Sutan, sons. Bibandhun, having no guardian father. Praveshya, made to enter. Laksha, lacquer. Bhavane, in the house. Dadaha, set on fire. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. And thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. Purport: Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest sons was a greater blindness than his physical lack of eyesight. The physical lack of sight does not bar one from spiritual progress, but when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, in these two verses, what we are seeing is, if we want to get the theme out of these two verses, the mood of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the danger of blind attachment, which is described through the psychology of Dhritarashtra, and what could be some lessons for our spiritual life in this modern age, and how can we purify our heart through hearing attentively. So Srila Suta Goswami, he describes that, so this is the converse. So originally when we started Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that the sages of Naimisharanya, they inquired from Srila Suta Goswami, and then who is referring to Srimad Bhagavatam, which was originally spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. So in the verse number 5, Srila Suta Goswami describes that Srila Shukadeva Goswami, the topmost of all sages, because he was given that position to speak Bhagavatam, he is responding to Maharaj Parikshit's questions with great joy and affection. So this is something to meditate on, the beautiful exchange going on between the hearer and the speaker. Now Maharaj Parikshit is asking questions one after another very, very sincerely, very attentively, and Sukadeva Goswami is replying joyfully. So when we talk about any Bhagavatam session, Bhagavatam class, there are two main ingredients. One is the sincere inquiry, and number two, the realized speaker. Right? So that's why we always hear from Srila Prabhupada in the form of his classes or in the form of the translations and purports he has given to us. Right? They are our basis. And second ingredient, second part is also very important, where as a listener we should be very sincere, we should be engaged, we should participate in that conversation. It's an active participation that we always advise to get the full benefit of Bhagavatam class. And in the verse number 5, there was a Sanskrit word which was used, that Srila Shukadeva Goswami became Preet Atma. Preet Atma means become joyful at heart. Why? Because this Krishna Katha is not just passing on some information, some historical facts or some some knowledge. It's not just information, but it is knowledge for transformation. So Bhagavatam is actually exchange heart to heart. It's exchange of heart to heart conversation. That's why Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mad Chit Mad Gat Pran Bodhyantam Parasparam. Very famous verse. Bodhyanti Parasparam. Kathyantascha Mam Nityam. Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. So Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the thoughts of my pure devotees, they're always thinking about me, meaning about Sri Krishna and his pastimes, his names, his abodes, his service. They're always engaged in thinking about Krishna and anything related to Krishna. and their lives are designed in a way where they are fully devoted to Krishna's service or his pure devotees' service. And the greatest satisfaction and joy and bliss such devotees get is by enlightening one another and conversing about me. Meaning what? By discussing the topics of Shri Krishna, anything related to Shri Krishna. That gives such pure devotees the greatest joy and satisfaction. Bodhyanti parasparam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a very, very active process. And Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also says in his commentary that nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, it deepens with our eagerness and sincerity. So those are the two main components of Srimad Bhagavatam class. Just how Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains further how Maharaj Parikshit is showing so much eagerness and asking so many sincere questions, that is encouraging the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Shukdev Goswami, to expand further and further, to start peeling, so they call it, right, the layers of onion, right? Now he's going more and more deeper. He started with 6 main questions by the sages of Naimisharanya, and then we see so many conversations, so many pastimes, so many descriptions or details by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that he will cover 18,000 verses to answer those questions. Right? He could have answered in one line or few sentences, just given those answers to those questions. But because of the sincerity and eagerness of the listener, he is feeling so much joy in speaking Shri Krishna Katha more and more. Just like if we see the example of fire, right? When we lit a fire, when does fire gives us more heat, or it becomes even bigger fire when air is blown into that fire in a very strategic way. So Krishna consciousness similarly, it ignites more in our heart when we share our Krishna consciousness with other sincere souls. So that's why we need Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. That's why we need a society. And that's why our Srila Prabhupada, he started this wonderful society of devotees, ISKCON, all over the world. Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, hear from Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam has 2 meanings: the book Bhagavatam, the Granth, the Shastra, and also the person who is Bhagavat, who is practically living the life as per the prescription of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why we always refer to Srila Prabhupada, the Jagat Guru, the Acharya of the current time. And we do not hear from outside scholars who, give these Bhagavatas or these classes on the paid basis, who are not following the parampara, who are just scholarly. They are trying to just become famous or earn money through these Bhagavad Kathas, Bhagavad Sattas. We don't hear from them. Srila Prabhupada always stressed that because Maharaj Parikshit asked perfect questions, therefore we are getting perfect answers through Srimad Bhagavatam. So the equation is to get perfect realization from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2 things: perfect question plus perfect speaker. So that will give us perfect realization. And the speaker is somebody who has realized Srimad Bhagavatam, like Srila Prabhupada for us, or somebody who is strictly following such Mahabhagavat. So then it can help us give the perfect realization. So once a devotee, he gives lot of classes regularly on Zoom, online classes all over the world. He said, sometimes in Zoom classes, camera is off, mic is off, and probably our mind is also off. But again, it is still okay. It is better than not at all coming to the Srimad Bhagavatam classes. Because we realize when we can find out when our cameras are off, we are not actively participating, meaning mic is also off, then we tend to not be so attentive in such classes. So just wanted to share, a devotee said. Once a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what if someone sleeps during the class? So Prabhupada replied, at least the ears are open. At least the ears are open. So bottom line is, this process of Shravanam, hearing, listening, it works even subconsciously. So that's why although our cameras might be off, we might not be engaged for whatever reason, we will still get some benefit out of it. But to get the most benefit out of it, to become really, when we invest our 1 hour or whatever time into hearing, why not we invest completely, become more attentive. So we see in case of Maharaj Parikshit, he was fully present. He was, as we will read Bhagavatam more and more, we'll see how at the right point, at the right time, he will ask more and more questions, meaning he was fully present. He will also ask some challenging but very humble, in the humble mood, some inquiries. Right? That shows that he is really listening and at the same time meditating on those points. Because he had only 7 days to live. Right? We might not be so attentive because we don't think we have 7 days. That urgency might not be there. So something to reflect, if I would have only 7 days to live, will my quality of listening to Bhagavatam change? Will my focus in my devotional life change? Will my attitude towards, my japa will change? Something to think about, to create urgency of Krishna consciousness. Because who knows, if we have 7 days, 3 days, 1 day, 1 minute, or 1 second, nobody knows, right? So in the next verse, we see that Dhritarashtra is mentioned, who was physically blinded, and we see from Mahabharata, and references are also in Srimad Bhagavatam, how his sons were so envious of Pandavas that they were always plotting some conspiracies against Pandavas, and who were their cousins. They belonged to the same family, but out of envy and the desire to control the kingdom, they were plotting so many conspiracies. And one of those conspiracy mentioned in this verse is Lakshagraha conspiracy. So this, as we know, since childhood, lot of atrocities were experienced by Pandavas. Their cousins, Kauravas, especially Duryodhana and his brothers, they used to conspire against Pandavas to give them lot of trouble, so to the point to kill them. The enviousness was so much that they were eager to kill them. Now when envy is there, or when there is excessive attachment, now the main problem was, even the bigger problem was, that Dhritarashtra, who was the king and who was supposed to protect Pandavas, because Pandavas lost their father and they were under the shelter of Dhritarashtra, he failed to give them the protection because of his excessive attachment towards his own sons. That is something not fit for any king, any leader. So excessive attachment creates three problems. It distorts our intelligence. It justifies our wrongdoings. So we might be taking wrong actions, but because of excessive attachment, we will start justifying that, and eventually, it will lead to suffering. So it spoils our intelligence, it justifies wrongdoings, and it ultimately leads to suffering. So we see, due to excessive attachment towards his son, Dhritarashtra also lost his intelligence, which is also indicated in the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samveta yuyutsava mamakaha pandavas kimakurvat sanjaya. When Dhritarashtra was inquiring from Vidura that since Pandavas and my sons, they have assembled in the Kurukshetra battlefield, or that Dharma Kshetra, that holy place of Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So Srila Prabhupada in one of his class says that this question was so absurd. It was not an intelligent question by Dhritarashtra. It is just like if we are given some food item and then somebody asks, what did he do with that food item? Of course, that person will eat. So the question is not what did they do. They are assembled to fight. But why Dhritarashtra asked that question? Because he was in great fear, nervousness and attachment. Just like Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Veet Rag Bhaya Krodha. Because of our rag, our moho, our attachment, fear comes, anger comes, and we become nervous. So despite of all these conspiracies, Shri Krishna always protected Pandavas. So we see Bhima was given the poison to kill him. They were tried to burn in the Lakshagraha. Lakshagraha was a palace created especially with a very special material which is highly inflammable. And Pandavas were, Duryodhana very sweetly acting as their well-wisher, sent Pandavas that, you should go and take some vacation in that palace I have built especially for you. And with very sweet talks, he sent Pandavas to that palace. And then we say cheating in the gambling was done to Pandavas. Draupadi was insulted in front of the public. They were sent to exile. So many atrocities were done. Agare kurunam ath pandavanam dushashane artha vastra kesha Krishna tada kroshadananyanath Govinda damodar madhaveti. So in that assembly of Kurus and Pandavas, when Dushashan caught Draupadi's hair and tried to insult her, Draupadi, she cried out to Lord Krishna, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, and Krishna protected her. Actually, Krishna protected Pandavas at every point, because he promised in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Name Bhakta Pranashyanti. My devotees will never perish. Even when this Lakshagraha incident happened, although the fire was burned, the building collapsed, but because The bhakti is always fire-proof. There is always danger-proof. Pandavas were protected. And Vidura actually, Krishna protected Pandavas through Vidura. Vidura knew about this plan of Duryodhan, and he made the arrangements so that Pandavas can be protected. So the point is that even when Srila Prabhupada came to America, right, so much difficulty, he got 2 heart attacks, but Krishna protected. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada was on a Krishna's mission. He was engaged in pure devotional service. So when one gets engaged in devotional service of Krishna, we must have firm faith that the Supreme Protector, Shri Krishna, will protect us always. Because he gets bound by devotional service. Sthit Grevam Damodar Bhakti Baddham. We sing this verse or this song in Damodar Ashtakam, that Krishna gets bound by devotional service. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is a verse. It says, Dhan jane panditya krishnera nahi pai, kevala bhaktira vasha chaitanya gosai. It means one cannot attain Shri Krishna by wealth, by high birth or scholarship. He can be controlled only by devotional service. Kevala bhaktira vasha. So we see people like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Kansa, Duryodhan, they were very wealthy. They had so much opulence. They were kings of big kingdoms. Even the whole planet at some point. They were scholars also. They had all the knowledge. But they were spiritually blind, like Dhritarashtra. Because of false ego, big ahankar, because of excessive attachment to their opulence, to power, to sense gratification. And that's why they never received the mercy of Shri Krishna. They got destroyed eventually. And who got the mercy of Lord? Meek and humble devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Pandavas, Vibhishan, right? Now Duryodhan, son of Dhritarashtra, if we see his character, he was not completely useless. He was very skilled. He was a very good politician, very good fighter as a Kshatriya. Also, it is mentioned he used to do welfare activities. But since he was not Krishna conscious, any qualities he had no meaning. Similarly, in this world also we see so many people who are very, very nice. They are very sweet. They have a lot of good qualities. They are very helpful also. They do a lot of charities also. But they have no interest in Krishna consciousness. So in spite of all the good qualities, all the skills, it is like having so many zeros without one. That one is Shri Krishna. It doesn't mean that we have to disrespect them, but we should try to share, engage Krishna consciousness with them in any way we can, but we should not get attracted by their sweetness so much that we think, that they are better than the Krishna's devotees. Now we also see, actually Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur mentioned that how does adharma begins. Adharma begins when we start justifying or supporting the wrongdoings, when we start excusing the envious nature, when we protect or prefer ego over what is truth. So Dhritarashtra knew what was right. He knew that Duryodhana is wrong. But because of his emotional attachment, his conscience got choked. So that is why it is said blind love is equal to spiritual destruction. Just like a parent who might be excusing child's bad behavior on the name of compassion, or he's a little child, he will improve later. No, we have to address the bad behavior. As a parent, as a leader, we should address uh, the bad behavior at the right time. Otherwise, it will not only destroy the child's behavior or child's future, or even somebody else's future, because if we are keep supporting the bad behavior, their false ego will start or keep on increasing, right? So it has to be addressed in the right way, according to our authority. Not like that we start just address, giving advice to each and everyone. Based on our authority, the service that we are given, we address those things. Even in the pastime of Shri Krishna, when Krishna stole butter, Mother Yashoda never said, "Oh, it's my child, it's okay." When gopis used to complain about Shri Krishna, she used to address. And one of the classical example is Damodar Leela. Yashoda bhiyo lukhala manam paramrishtam atyanto dritya gopeya. Mother Yashoda bound Krishna as a punishment with rope. Dam. This is love with discipline. So teaching somebody discipline or right thing doesn't mean that we don't love them. Actually, it is the love. If we love somebody, we will address their issues as their well wisher. So we see Duryodhana is, or he was actually materially blind. So when somebody is materially blind, he misses the enjoyment of this world, this material world. But even greater problem is when somebody is spiritually blind, because then he misses the beauty and bliss of spiritual world, which is millions times more beautiful, times more beautiful and enjoyable than material world. So His Holiness Chandramauli Swami mentions about a very great devotee in one of his class, Sri Surdas, who was a great poet, devotional poet, and he used to live in a village called as Parsoli in Braj near Vrindavan, and that place is still there. Actually, His Holiness Indranand Swami Maharaj also did a beautiful documentary in his regarding this place. This is the place where Ras Leela happened between Krishna and gopis also. So it is mentioned that the moon god became so much ecstatic seeing that Ras Leela that he started crying in ecstasy, and out of his ecstatic tears there is a lake that got formed, which is still there, which is called as Chandra Sarovar, meaning the lake of moon. So that lake is made up of the ecstatic flood of tears that came out of moon god. Actually, that place is still there, not known to many people. It's almost like hidden, very beautiful place. My mother knew about that place, so years back, when we were going to Vrindavan, on the way she recalled that place and she asked us to go there. And it's really beautiful, untouched by outside world. There is a beautiful temple of Shri Krishna also there, very small temple, and very scenic view, very natural view. So Shri Surdas used to live in that place. He was blind, but he used to compose poems that used to describe the different outfits and ornaments of Shri Krishna in the Gopal, in the child form, that Shri Krishna used to get decorated with every day. So every day the pujaris will do the Shringar of Shri Krishna in the Bal Gopal form, and even though Shri Surdas was blind, he could, in his meditation, in his insights, he could describe those outfits and ornaments in the form of his poems. So one day, to test him, some of the priests, he did not dress any cloth on Gopalji. And he opened the doors of the altar and he asked Sri Surdasji to describe what clothes Gopalji has mentioned, he has wore today. So Sri Surdas remained silent for a few minutes and then he laughed loudly. And he sang, he composed, Aaj bhai hari nangam nanga, meaning today Gopalji has put on no dress. So that was the greatness of Sri Surdas. So meaning point is, even if somebody is blind by birth, it doesn't stop them from becoming Krishna conscious, right? Usually if actually someone, if he is blind by birth, his other senses becomes very strong, like sense of hearing, sense of touch. So we have 5 main senses, right? We know, which are responsible for different activities. We have eyes to see, we have ears to hear, tongue to taste, nose to smell, skin to touch. But we cannot use our eyes to hear. We cannot use our ears to see, right? Our one limb of our body can do only that particular function. On the other hand, in the case of Krishna, Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmay sadujvala vigrahasya govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. That each and every limb of Krishna can do the function of other limb. So, but even in this world, if somebody loses one sense, our other senses might become actually more strong. It is proven. For example, if somebody loses eyes, his sense of touch or hear becomes very strong than usual. Srila Prabhupada used to say that, of course, losing a limb from the body or senses is very unfortunate, but it is not the end of the world. It should not become an obstruction in our spiritual progress, because more important is spiritual eyesight or spiritual insight. So Dhritarashtra not only lost his material eyesight, but he also lost spiritual insight, which is more devastating. So who is blind? If we ask that question, who is blind, the answer will be somebody who has lost his sense of sight, or somebody who has closed his eyes. If I just close my eyes, I am as good as blind, right? Or if somebody is living in a dark room, there is no light, not even a ray of light, he is also as good as being blind. So in this world, we see practically everyone is blind, actually spiritually blind. That is why we always pray, Om Agyan Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. We are praying, we are accepting as a devotee, as a practicing devotee, we understand that we are blind. How we are blind? Because the prayer is, because I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is opening my eyes. How he is opening my eyes? By the torch of knowledge, by the light of knowledge. That's why I offer my most respectful obeisances to my spiritual master. And if we see why one is spiritually blind, because mind is actually the controller of conditioned living entities. We as conditioned souls, we only want to see what we want to see. We want to hear what we want to hear, if we think about it. That is our condition. So when our mind is agitated, when it is not in the mode of goodness, we cannot see in spite of seeing. For example, probably all of them, I think all of all of us must have gone through this kind of experience, similar kind of experience, sometime or another. That few weeks back, when I heard that our spiritual master is not in good health, very critical health, of course our minds were little agitated. We were having a lot of thoughts, what to do, what not to do, what should be done, what should not be done, a lot of messages, a lot of calls. And then I was driving with Tungvidya. We were going somewhere, and the traffic signal was red. I saw it, I stopped. Then after some time, of course, it became green. I saw it, it became green, but I was still, just not moving the car. And Tungvidya had to push me, tell me, move on, it's green light. Because my mind was agitated. I was seeing, but not really seeing. So, manaha sashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita that conditioned soul is bound up like somebody is bound by iron chains. How he is bound up? By false ego. And the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in the material existence. So we might be thinking that we use our senses, but all that is controlled by our mind. When our mind is in the mode of goodness, activities are good. When mind is in the mode of passion, we are very, very agitated to achieve something or the other in this world. And of course, when mind is in mode of ignorance, we end up performing the activities which push us down to the lower species of life. So actually, generally, we all know what is good or bad for us. But we ignore, depending on our consciousness. We know whom to associate with, whom not to associate with, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, what to watch, what not to watch, what to hear, what not to hear. We have all that gyan, knowledge. But due to our false ego, discovering of false ego, because of which our mind is superimposing us and we lose our intelligence, we do not want to take uncomfortable steps which uplifts us. That, to change ourselves, we have to take the next step. And Krishna describes that our inability to take the next step or higher steps or to transform ourselves as Hridaya Durlabhyam. Hridaya Durlabhyam, meaning the weakness of heart. So then what to do? How to control our mind and senses? Is there any remedy for that? Yes. What is the remedy? Manaha trayate iti mantra. That's why we chant Mahamantra. Because by regularly, sincerely chanting Mahamantra and avoiding the offenses towards the name, holy name, we can try to win over our mind. By regularly visiting temples to take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Shri Shri Nitai Gaurchandra, Srila Prabhupada, and devotees. By taking darshan of all these Vigrahas, deities, Prabhupada, devotees, by engaging our senses in the service of devotees, by hearing Shri Krishna Katha every day, regularly, by avoiding news and gossips, that go into our ears, by tasting Krishna Prasad, only Krishna Prasad, by touching the paraphernalia of Krishna or anything which is touched by Shri Krishna or pure devotees, by smelling things like flowers offered to Shri Krishna. That is the practical application. So as we do all these things regularly and with full consciousness, manaha trayate iti mantra. Just like Mahamantra will uplift our mind, these other things will also uplift or move our senses from material consciousness to body consciousness. So, just to conclude today's message, we learned from these two verses very, very important things. Hear Bhagavatam with eagerness, be an active listener like Parikshit Maharaj, speak Bhagavatam with devotion. So whenever we get the opportunity to speak about Krishna Katha, it should be with devotion, not like a scholarly way where we try to analyze the facts. We should do a very systematic study, but there has to be a touch of devotion also, like Shukdev Goswami. Attachment without dharma destroys. Just like we learn from Dhritarashtra what not to do, how we should not be attached, excessive attached to anyone actually, so that we become blind to their wrongdoings, right? Because if we allow the wrongdoings, that will spread like wildfire. The impact will be not good. Krishna always protects his devotees. We should have firm faith in this path, that nobody else, how wealthy he could be, nobody else, how rich he could be, how knowledgeable he could be, how a great person he could be in this material world, maybe in a great position, maybe a great doctor or whoever, but ultimate protection comes from Krishna. दैन्य आत्मनिवेदन गोप्तत्व वर्ण अवश्य रक्षिवा करिबो, अवश्य रक्षिवा कृष्णा, विश्वास पालन, अवश्य रक्षिवे कृष्णा, that Krishna will definitely protect me. That should be our firm faith. And then we should remember that envy burns, but bhakti saves us. So we should not be envious of anyone, even in our devotional path. If some devotees are progressing, we should take lessons from them, we should learn from them rather than envy them. Because envy will not help in any case. So these two verses actually teaches us the joy of Krishna Katha, how to listen, how to speak, and the dangers of material attachments. So we should pray to Lord Shri Krishna that please remove my blindness, this spiritual blindness, and help me see through the eyes of Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. So with that, I conclude today's topic. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. If anyone would like to share any reflection, any realization, any comments, or might have some question, you can unmute yourself, or you can type on the chat also. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lecture. The importance of having to listen and to listen attentively, and the quotations that you gave were very, very, very wonderful. Machita, Pana, Bodega, Paspara, Kata, you can teach our romantica. Very important for us to hear and to hear attentively. And this is how we're going to become excited in our lives, because the material world won't give us much at all. We can try, but we'll be frustrated. Thank you. Thank you. Did what he says. Prabhu said, please unmute yourself and ask a question. Or if you have realizations on take home that you want to have all of us, be aware of from the preaching, please do that also. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments from anyone? Or any takeaways that were impressive to you, please? You can repeat that.
At least one takeaway from a couple of devotees can share. It will also encourage me. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble
Hare
obeisances. I
Krishna,
was
Prabhu.
I was hearing this one point which I liked very much. That even if we are not attentive, I mean that is like something like hope giving. It's not all the time. If I am on Zoom, I am also like sometimes absent minded, but it really gives the hope that yeah, I mean at least something is going in the background. So, but yeah, I mean I try to be as attentive as much possible. But yeah, that was very nice to like at least keep it on so that like so that even if we are doing something else like but what I have felt is if I keep it on like at least at some point like within like 2-3 minutes I am back to hear the class. If I don't put it on I will never hear the class, or I am like completely off the track like that. So that was a nice point. And later on you talked about like envy is not very good. So like that's also a very important point in our process. These points are very nice. I like those points. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing that. And it also brings very important points that, like in the path of Krishna consciousness, there is no loss. Whatever little or more we do, it has great benefits. Like you said, even if we are sometimes we might not be attentive, but it's still if we are listening or part of the um, katha or class, something will benefit us. Also, it brings another important point that we should be very conscious of our environment. Just like even if though we might not be attentive, but if we are not in a favorable environment, which is favorable to Krishna consciousness, those vibrations, those energies might be going inside us, right? If we are not protecting ourselves, not guarding ourselves, so it goes both ways. So thank you for bringing that point, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, Damodar. Any other comments or questions? Hmm. You did talk about Dhritarashtra and how he was very unfair in, to the Pandavas. As a matter of fact, Bhim, when he was young, was poisoned. He brought that pastime up, how so much hatred is there only because they won the kingdom, and it's not due them. Pandu was the next king. He was elected the king. Therefore, the Dhritarashtra's sons were not the ones to get a crown prince from. It had to be from Pandu, who was the king, his sons. And the first one was, at the least at the time that they knew, that was Yudhishthir. So all of this envy, we have to be careful that we don't envy others. When it comes, it's a sign that we need to work on it immediately. Pray for that particular kind of mood to go away. Because we were envious of Krishna. That's how we wound up in the material world in the first place. So envy has to go. And we were done with very envious. And their father, Dhritarashtra, allowed it to go home. So as you explained so nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu, for reminding about that important point. Very, very important point. Thank you.
Any last comments? We're just on top of the hour now. If not, then thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving the class, and for the devotees for attending it. Have a wonderful weekend, and Sunday we'll see you at the temple. Program starts at 4:30 as usual. So have a wonderful day and Krishna consciousness weekend. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishyamebhyo namo namo. Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.